Hi everybody, your monthlies are finally coming out. I really had to kind of resolve in my own head how to do it to balance between everything I want to do for you and my current inability to actually donate as much time. So I decided to go free flow. And free flow, it's not going to have any kind of spread attached to it. I'm simply going to ask possibly different decks to give me messages for you, and we'll go with that. And this is sort of like really high level message that, it's going to tell you where you can go and to what you can amount and what you have to watch for. Like sort of like basic kind of like let's go for it kind of thing. I'm going to give in my bi-weeklies, which are always on the 1st and 15th published. So I'm sticking to that. And for those of you who are looking for X situation on and off, like there are also those series that are coming out every month. Now, before I move further, I actually want to send a shout out to everybody, and hopefully you will be joining in this particular proposal that I have. So I'm in the process of actually building my own card deck. It is collaboration between me and Mira, a wonderful, extraordinary artist. And so we are bouncing off the ideas back and forth. She's adding her basically touch to it, and everything that I have seen so far is like coming out really wonderfully. Now, I would actually like you guys to have your own touch to this basically making. And so I'm not doing this haphazardly. I don't know how much you know about me. I'm also a marketing professional. So I'm trying to select a group of people, 10 to 20, that, can give their 2 cents. And this is not like kind of a call for you giving accolades. This is really, I can understand this message in it. No, I cannot understand message in it, because that way you're going to set us straight to be on the right path. And so I'm trying to actually select these 20 to have men and women, people from all walks of life, people with all kind of tarot experiences, from, hey, I'm just here to watch it, to, yay, I am basically a guru. So if you guys are willing to jump on board, please go to www.cattarot.ca/focus group and just like submit your application. Why do you think you should be the one in that group? And I really, really appreciate everybody doing that. This is non-paid position, and it's purposely non-paid position because I do want you to give me a rough time. And this way, it's going to be a really wonderful creation, because sometimes I may be too much up in the air. I'm an air sign, and maybe I need to be grounded a little bit more because I really like abstract. Other people really like ground. So hence, this collaborative kind of like pointers would really help to set me and Mira sailing in a better direction. And it's going to be a few rounds of this. This is a very, very first preliminary round. And I'm really, really thanking in advance to everybody who actually spent time even listening to this plea, and especially to those who actually apply or participate in a study. Thank you so much, and I look forward to applications. All the best. And now for the rest of us, let's jump right into the reading. Hi Cancer, and welcome to October monthly. October is actually a really important month because of the Jupiter shift, and monthlies are going to be really high and kind of like view from the above and impressions from the above, and then bi-weekly, which is due in 1st and 15th, it's going to be sort of like, okay, do this, do that, sort of like kind of how to navigate when you're on the ground, and this is the view from the air. So before I start, you guys got Algiz. This is the rune of self-interest. Remember this rune. This is actually the upright position. You got it reversed. Just remember this. It's just like a little kind of chicken foot, right? And just chart it down for yourself. because this is a rune that is intimately connected with magical powers, right? Traditionally, it was a charm for those of need of healing and protection. So let this be just a little piece of the paper in your wallet, in your pocket. Let this be your protection, right? This rune was considered to be so great that it was not only to protect the person who possesses the talisman, but also his family or her family, friends, and property. So this can be seen as a rune of really self-interest in kind of many way. You know, we all are being trained, do not be selfish. Well, there is a fine line between selfish and self-interest. That's not a sin, right? Because at this time, it's talking about that you must put yourself first. That possibly, you know, the computer, when the computer starts running out of battery, the laptop, what do? Do you just like blast all this kind of music and everything else on it? Or you kind of like go down to the basics if you want to stretch it out. So you kind of like have to put important things forward, in which this case is you. So whatever the reason is for it, whether maybe you've been through practical issues, or maybe through illness, or maybe there is a mental exhaustion, there is a reason for this. Now, when it comes reversed, this basically reinforces the message that it is time to put yourself first. Also, it predicts that events will speed up. Now, you really need to really concern yourself with your own welfare right now, right? Because other people, your partner, friends, family, are going to be actually less sensitive to your needs, and very kind of like much considerably less than usual. So keep that in mind. And especially a Cancer, you have this like really softness inside behind it, like heavy core. You're going to be noticing this, right? And the truth is that they're not doing this because they're mean, but they're just simply completely oblivious to any kind of difficulties you're experiencing. So as a result, you might start to feel vulnerable, right? And you might be kind of like browbeaten into compliance, right? So this is a time to seek solitude and give yourself space for recuperation. It's kind of course, confirmed here. I'm seeing that you guys also got Aloneness, Hermit, and you even got the Four of Swords reversed here. So it is going to be a really interesting period for you. But as I said, like, protect yourself. This is kind of like symbolic, emblematic way of protecting yourself. So kind of like keep it in the upright position. Actually, this one is really good in both ways. It's just like, don't let things get to you this month. And if somebody just tries to make you to do certain things their way, remember that you have to come first. Okay. So what's basically going to happen? This, you have Whale. And you guys got two water basically cards, which is kind of lovely. When people, when this rune comes out, need for soul protection, and you're a water sign, that means you have to draw from your own strength, right? So here it means that you might actually have to get out of your comfort zone, right? Water being your comfort zone. And even though whales are mammals, which means that they can breathe outside of the water, they reside majority of their time in the water. This is their element. They don't have legs, they have fins. So they kind of like are able to adapt themselves to the ambience, right? So what's basically going to happen here is that this is time to take a break. It says breach. It says kind of like this magnificent being that is just like so big and it's so powerful under the water is jumping out. So this is not asking of you to take a coffee break. It's possibly even removing yourself from the natural environment you're in. Maybe a trip. Maybe you're tired of being indoors. Maybe you're tired of being outdoors. Maybe you're attached to your surroundings, that you maybe created some kind of illusion of safety, because you Cancer are Cancers are all about safety, right? So it is time to kind of like really realize that maybe there is a greater picture in here. Remember, I told you this reading monthly is a big picture. So I'm just telling you, right? Taking time away from the familiar is literally about changing your external environment in a very significant way, such as doing something unusual, something that you didn't do, or something that you never experienced. Another way of this card applying on you would be kind of like breaking through some thought patterns, right? Which can open you up to different worlds and different perspectives, which I think you're kind of like realizing not only where you are, but also how you are positioned toward everybody else, because you just basically by nature you're not rebellious, but I'm seeing the vast array of emotions that will be happening this month. So I think this all of that is happening because you're like emotional sign, is because they need to push you to some kind of like next level. So rain is basically talking about purifying your mind, right? And spirit, and putting the effort in a task in front of you, right? So when I see this card, it is kind of like, okay, so let's backtrack. What is the rain? It is like simply, I don't know, a person who doesn't like rain, especially that fresh air after a good rain, right? Which also brings clean water, which kind of provides sustenance for plants, animals, and us, of course, right? And when we have intense rainstorms, which we unfortunately had observed in the US, you know, then they come as an avalanche of water, right? With hurricanes and tornadoes. And that's because they're accompanied by powerful winds. You see, this is when the water meets air, right? And that kind of combination can cause considerable flooding and destruction, right? So, however, what is purged is making way for new life to appear. And this is asking of you to show up 100% of time. This is a time for you to resurface all your feelings, anything that you might be kind of like dealing with. So let yourself feel your grief, truly feel it. So even if this means crying, and make this rivers, make this rain out of your tears, it is going to help to heal wounds in your soul. This is also asking you to detox. You guys love food, right? Food is something really essential. You and Tauruses are definitely two signs in the horoscope that I would actually reserve the seat in the restaurant, right? So, but this is asking of you to maybe cleanse for a few days. Maybe, if nothing else, add much more water, because that water will detox you, because water is basically lifeblood, right? And it is really essential for us to function. Now, obviously, there will be a lot of things going on, and keep going back to this. You guys need to realize that you are actually cleansing yourself, and you're putting yourself first. This is like a tune-up. This is like maybe taking the old engine out and putting a new engine in. Like, this whole process takes time, and you have to allow yourself this time. And when other people tell you, well, you know, I want you to do that, or I want you to do this, basically what will be happening is that they are like trying to impose their wishes. And you know, for most of the time, of course, it is kind of like really important that we kind of get along with other people, and we kind of like sometimes work with their needs. However, you know, at times we really need to kind of like dedicate time to ourselves, who we are and what we need, because maybe you're going through all this range of emotions, because what basically has happened, it looks like that your own needs have been neglected. Because I'm seeing here consciousness, I'm seeing here the rebel, and I'm seeing here unloneliness. they almost can be seen as kind of like very contradictory cards over here, right? So the truth is, like, where do we go with this, right? uh, you're coming into who you are. You're like being reborn. You are understanding that, you know, you are important. You are understanding that you have to put yourself first. You are coming into this conscious universe thing. So this is sort of like, I have to tell you, before I start doing this job, it was kind of like really hard concept to basically comprehend. But the truth is, this is exactly what happens. You start feeling this third eye over here. You start feeling the things are kind of like really opening up for you, that you are starting to see things differently. And this is it's not maturity. It's not only maturity. Maturity is a part of it, but another part of that is like realization that you are part of the whole, and that maybe you were part of one system and now you're adding additional things to it, right? Because in this particular deck of Shozen, right, most of the cards in the suit of what I call it, I think, the mind, which would relate to swords, but don't even look for Ace of Swords, which is really fast moving. The Ace of Swords is basically the fastest card in the entire deck. Swords are super fast, and people don't like swords. Remember, I was talking wind and water create disasters. So this is literally, again, asking you to breach out, right? Because most of the cards in this particular deck, in the suit of the mind, are either showing something like cartoons or showing some kind of troubled kind of like issues. Because if you really think about it, mind in our lives, it can be either ridiculous or oppressive, right? However, look at the this card. In this card of consciousness, we actually see a huge Buddha figure, right? So if you really look at these are the stars, and the Buddha is like so much bigger than even the stars. So when this card is drawn, it means that there is a need for crystal clarity. That will be your Ace of Swords flavor, right? And you need to be detached, and you need to be rooted in deep stillness that kind of like is in the deep core of your being, right? So you need to understand that you have to work in harmony with the pulse of life itself. And the rebel, so look at this: air, fire, earth. So the Zen messages are just everything but water, because the top messages are water, saying, guys, Cancers, you have to come back to who you are. You have to start understanding yourself, because this is not giving you lower and lower layers here. So saying, listen, you don't let mind play tricks on you. So remember how I was telling some people will try to push their things on you, and this is where I see it, right? You have to kind of like figure out who you are, let the pain out, and not to allow those push buttons to kind of like be here and there, right? I love this card, and this is really good for you. Look at these chains. These chains are broken. So the rebel is like really authoritative figure in this deck. It's in every deck. The emperor is somebody who sits on the throne, and it can kind of like give fate to the other people, right? Now the interesting thing here is, here we had the stars, and we here have all the colors of basically the rainbow, right? So this chain talks about possible repression of the other people, right? Of the society, of our bosses, of our spouses, of our friends, of our family, right? So here he is emerging in this rainbow colors, right, from this dark, right, and kind of like growing wings to fly out, right? So the spirit animal of this card is eagle, right? So that's the messenger between earth and sky, right? So this card is basically asking you, are you guys courageous enough to take responsibility who you are
and live your truth, because it's certainly, this is going to be the mantra of the month. And this is why I started, and I repeat, you guys will need lots of protection, and you will be very tempted to crawl and clamp up and just like go back to where it was. And how do you do it? You see, this purification, this is again kind of like repeat, just like what you had with your rune. This is the time where you really need to find your own path. Nobody's going to tell you, you know, I don't want to tell you either. I'm just telling you, it's going to be lots of thinking, because ultimately each of you is responsible for your own destiny, right? So, you know, this card is also very interesting because nines are a very interesting card in basically tarot deck, right? So some readers will tell you, oh, well, when there is no significant other in our lives, we are lonely, or you know, you are solo, and solo means solitude, right? Now, I actually personally like this state, right? When I don't really need support of the others to feel fulfilled. I love friends, I like colleagues, right? But this card is telling me something completely different, that the growth, that spiritual growth, that progress in life is only created with the vibrations that you create, and nobody can do it for you. You can take massages, you can take baths, but this is just going to scratch the surface, right? So this is that saying that says, right, be a light unto yourself. So ultimately, as I said, each of us must develop within ourselves the capacity to make our way through the darkness without any companions. And guys, this is maturity, right? Like when you are alone, you are really not alone. You are maybe lonely, but there is a tremendous difference between loneliness and aloneness. So when you're lonely, you're thinking of somebody else and you're missing somebody else. Loneliness is a very negative state. That's kind of a feeling that you would be better if the other person was there. Whoever it is, your friend, your wife, your mother, you know, your lover, your cat, your husband, your wife, right? So that feeling, oh, it would be so good if he or she's there, but I am so lonely because they're not here. So you see, loneliness is the absence of somebody else. Aloneness is the presence of oneself. Aloneness is extremely positive. It's overflowing presence, like that you are, you know, like you're represented with water. So this is, when this card shows up, it says your cup is empty. You cannot give to anybody else. This is why this is asking of you to put yourself first, because the empty cup cannot cherish and nourish anybody. You cannot quench the thirst of the other people with an empty cup, and you guys are getting empty. And don't ask for somebody kind of to do it for you, because you have these resources inside. So this is really, really asking you to kind of understand this. Maybe you guys are not giving yourself enough credit for all of that, because this honestly is one of the best cards. This is the card that tells me this sign is ready to move forward. This sign is now chosen, but you are chosen to deal with your crap first, because you need to purify, you need to kind of get out of your shell, you need to understand why you're doing this, and you need to do it for the right purposes. It is really interesting this month. Lots of signs got lots of messages, and Jupiter is going to make all of us be the best we can be. Honestly, with everything that I see happening in the world, I can't wait for this to happen. I'm taking the challenge, and I hope so will you. So let's go into law of attraction. The first card, and again, guys, just like all these decks, tarot deck is a tarot deck. They have the universal meanings. They do. So you know that I did play to you because I'm creating my own deck. However, each deck is very specific to what it wants to convey and how easy it wants to make for us to read. And in this deck, and in this deck, the messages are like really more targeted, right, to the certain kind of like stream of consciousness in this case, and in this case to the stream of attraction. So 10 of Wands in the regular deck always talks about obstacles, and it talks about possibly not being able to reach the goals. In this deck, however, look at these hands, talks about victory. You know, this I give to my clients as an exercise, and I say, raise your arms like that. The first thing in the morning, just lie down in your bed, first do your stretches before you get up, then sit and raise your arms like this. Keep it up for 2 minutes. It's kind of long, 2 minutes, but oh my gosh, you're going to start feeling really, really good. And each time you're tired during the day, this is also a really great thing to do it. So you're going to start seeing this positive transformation, right? And this is something that you will be actually observing it yourself. The ship is coming home. You know what I talk about: ships, friendships, relationships, partnerships, ownerships. So whatever you were planting, it is coming home. But this is why this is asking you to go on a higher level, because you need to cultivate this. Now, you're going to be very kind of like, there is the card that talks about restlessness. Look at this, the shadow of a devil. You look at, that's the light. That's again this light. Are you going to go back to your old ways, right? Because in order to obtain what you want, you will have to face radical change and stop hesitating. And this can actually talk about sadness. This can talk about regrets. It looks like, and especially because you are like water sign, your emotional sign, you need to go deep, and you have to clean any mud, anything that's possibly residing, shed these tears, shed any garbage that is like no use for you, and it's time to move on. Because this card as well, look at that. The airplane, doesn't like this telling you Bermuda Triangle? The plane is stuck, right? And this can talk about departure, delays, breakups, incompatibility, doubt, right? Maybe some kind of like dividends may render, maybe some efforts that you have already made, but at the same time, like these efforts can be kind of rendered useless. So you really need to go deep inside and ask yourself, am I doing these things for the right reasons? Because these two cards are telling me that you can succeed in something. Obviously, you'll be cutting off certain things that are not needed, but at the same time, you will maybe just stay away from the goal that you thought you wanted so much. And this is kind of like getting to the right reasons of what you really want. So, interestingly enough, here, it was a whole bunch of cards that were coming in bundles, like in these kind of two bundles. So let's start with the first one. The first one was the Devil card. And we have this devil here lurking in the shadows. Devil is talking about obsessions with something. When we feel we are like marionettes, we are kind of ruled by the other people. You know, it's you get a job, and they tell you how you will dress, when you will eat, and how you will behave, what you can do and cannot do. It's just a little programming. It's a little software they put it on, and we giggle about it. We take it as a plus or minus, depends, and this kind of tilts all the time. This feels, however, that maybe sometimes we lose sight of things that are wrong. It's one thing doing things out of survival. Another thing is like enjoying in these things that are wrong. Because it tells me, look, Four of Swords. It's kind of running away from problems. No, don't be lonely. Be alone. Need to get to it, because this is telling me inability to face your problems. Not even having awareness of the problems. Some of you are still stuck in the past. Some of you are still romanticizing, and maybe there's this daydreams that you guys are really famous for. You just go there and you're still thinking, how do I build something? How do I rebuild something? Maybe you're longing for somebody who is possibly gone, without realizing that you have like something huge in front of you. And kind of looking to work on it. Now, the second bundle that just jumped out when I was ready to kind of like close this was this, the Tower. And whenever I see Tower, I know that you may choose not to do anything. It's going to be so hard that people will be stepping on you, that literally you will have this feeling of exhaustion and not able to breathe, and that's when Tower happens. This is like when those chains start to like fall off and say, that's it, I just can't, I will die if I just continue one more day like that. This talks about arguments, this talks about epiphany, this talks about almost like being shocked, and how could you not see this before? And that's when Destiny steps in and say, okay, you know what, I tried to kind of like call you and let you know that you have to work with this, but you didn't. So hence, here you are right now. Because now you have another 6 reversed over here. So relationships will be highly affected this month. And this Tower can be due to some kind of relationship that is kind of like going to have issues with, it's going to be really ridiculous conversation about possibly some kind of looks and attraction, and definitely about complete imbalance that is basically happening over here. Because look at the flavors are like, I mean, here is earth, cups, like earth, water, air, right? Fire, earth, and this can be both fire and water. So this card, I'm not sure because it came sideways. So I think this is almost like saying as a guide, guys, this is the answer. This is the answer. My favorite card. Yesterday, my viewership turned to 17,000, and the first thing I thought of was star. This is my life path. This is my path to help people see themselves, and not to just tell you, oh, you know, just close the door on this person, etc. Just guide you to be the best you can be. And it looks like you're getting there. You're doing this and helping yourself to go further, to kind of like propel yourself to a much higher, newer level. So guys, next we are going to do Lenormand, and that way it's going to give you possible a bit more practical, more pragmatic approach to this month. So I will click back in as soon as I put it on the table. Okay, just so you know, there is a visitor here trying to make her change my mind. I think Safi was here to remind me. Let's do that real time, so that way sort of I'm picking up the energies by focusing. Okay, Cancers for October, Cancers for October, journal, and the house. You guys are good with journaling. I would advise that, kind of like writing things down, exploring things, putting them black and white, paying attention to maybe oh my gosh, there you go. Certain things need to transform, that's for sure. Take that trip that was saying, and you know, you guys need to wake up. The whip has to be cracked, and it's going to happen. This can also talk about, interestingly enough, about sexuality. It can talk about really friends with benefits things, but that's at the same time you're being called to really think, is that what you really want in your life. Cancer, October 2017. So we have again the grave, the letter, and the key. So it might be actually the end of something. The key is always opening a door to something. You will try to maybe open up the door to communication, and you might not get what you want. Or somebody might try to open the door with you and they will not get what they want. So in any case, it is grave in this deck. Usually there is a death in the other decks, and that usually denotes the end period. In this deck, however, under the roses, Lenormand, it's always talking about transformation, and so certain things cannot continue going the way they were going. And so that was like some kind of communication. What you thought was a solution, it's going to kind of flow differently. So let's see what we get. Oh my gosh, you got karma card here as well. And there is one significator, the lady. There is a dog. I always consider you guys connecting your sign with that loyalty, also a dog. I don't know why. And oh, there is a gentleman too. That's pretty interesting. So let's see. Oh, look, you just came to that letter. What do I see here? Certainly, you are trying to pay some kind of like pay some attention to what you are really doing in life. What are you doing for a living? Because you have the fox and you have the fish. Like one is like 9-to-5 job, and one is like sort of like embracing a new opportunity, right? So here I can see this some kind of love affair or some kind of love, something that has been crossed literally, right? Maybe it's getting cut off, or you cut it off, or somebody else cut it off, right? And that was that melancholy that we have seen in tarot as well. But guys, fret not. Like, it looks like it was a whole bunch of things. Maybe it was even a job promotion that basically happened, but maybe there were issues on the other ends. Some of you may have some health issues, smaller health issues, or issues with heart, and that can be like from a heartache to really severe angina. So you are actually coming into something really positive. There will be crossroads over here, right? And so crossroads are asking you, and especially because you're a Cancer, you have to ask yourself. You see in this deck, there are 3 of them, but this came on the very top, so I don't really know where you will go exactly. I see that one is going to the past, and this is where you kind of like climb up, you go back into your past, and this is kind of like that sorrow. But the past is also asking of you, because I have the sickle, to cut it off. There is another one that is going to the adventure in some kind of like new kind of like conquests. The bear is generally like mother bear, protectiveness. But it's also dating. And here is the key that you're getting again. So there is like somebody else is showing up. I see the dating, or somebody who is loyal, somebody new is coming to your life. You still have to kind of like resolve certain issues within yourself. The mind says kind of like when you think you're progressing forward, but things just keep kind of pushing you back. So this is the Tower moment. You need to kind of like really set things straight, right? But this kind of like, it will be the only negative thing, and this is still maybe something that is happening between you and somebody who is coming in your life. And vice versa. That can be you ladies, it can be significators, can be interchangeable, right? The garden and dog and rider talks about dating, and something will be happening to you really, really fast. Also, you have the advantage of the sun. So it is also possible that it will be the person from the past re-entering your life. And you will be worrying about the red flags, right? And you will most likely give this person a chance, because you still feel connection. However, I do have to tell you that if this person puts themselves ahead of you, you will not let that happen. This time around, it's going to be different. You will put yourself first, and not in a selfish way, but sort of like into growth way. And dating is going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, at least for this month. So let's see where this goes. And lastly, I pulled 2 cards from my Enchanted Map Oracle cards. And the first one that you got was Magical Map Shifter. It says, Spirit orchestrates everybody's destiny. When the Magical Map Shifter card arrives, it comes with a mission to make you aware of the people who come into your life to impact your personal growth. Perhaps You may meet a soulmate whose presence invites you to be the best you that you can be, or someone who leads you out of difficulty and into a place of safety or success. Pay attention to those individuals who cross your path today and cause you to reflect on your journey. Reflect being the key, guys, here again. Be awake and aware, and you'll recognize them for the important change agents they are. Your whole perspective about who you are and why you are here will shift. The magical map shifter always initiates you into a better version of yourself. And I really think this really absorbs nicely all the messages from all the sides. Maybe the key here, all this thinking that you need to do, is to see what kind of person you really want to become. And the second one was spirit of place. And this is what it says. Authenticity is the essence of power. Our ancient ancestors believed that every place has a spirit looking after it or embodying it. Just as we have a soul, the plants, trees, birds, mountains, and rivers have their own essences. When the spirit of place arrives in your reading, it says that the answer to your query is in the overreaching theme of your circumstances. Is your question about a struggle? The answer is to relax and let go of your need to control the situation. If your inquiry relates to finding love, then embody love rather than long for it. Once you find the essential truth that underlies your question and then name it, you'll discover the answer you've been seeking. Your greatest power is your authenticity. And I think that's the key, guys. And what a lovely card with all this fall coming over here. And I'm thinking even for the people in the southern hemisphere, even though you don't have the fall leaves, you possibly are having trees bursting with different colors. So it's going to be a really possible tense month for you guys, but you are going to be somebody else by the end of it, and somebody really, really good. So birth pains are difficult, right? But the baby is going to be the real success. So Cancers, I would love to hear your comments, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Please click like or dislike button and join me on the Facebook. And lastly, for your private energies and your private readings, please contact me at www.cattarot.ca. Thanks everybody, and have a wonderful October. Love you.